Hello everyone, welcome back to Edible Abundance Homestead. It is May 24th, I think, and we are going to take a look around the garden today. So I had intended to do a bit of a garden tour overview earlier in the week, and we've just been so incredibly busy between dance stuff, t-ball stuff. Spring's just so busy for us. Plus actually trying to get some work done in the garden. So I'm going to show you around a little bit and talk a little bit about what is going on, what's been harvested, what needs to be harvested, that sort of thing. So I'm going to start over here, and I'm just going to do this. So here's my strawberry patch, looking lush and green. So for the past week and a half or so, my kids have been picking strawberries for themselves to eat fresh, which is great. That's what I want. But the problem is they kind of just pick around the edges here. And so this whole middle area has kind of been ignored. And so there was a lot of fruit in there that was basically just rotting, because I haven't had a chance to come out and pick. So yesterday I came out and I gave it a pretty thorough picking. I didn't get everything. You know, you're never going to get everything in a patch like this, but I feel like I did a pretty good job. I ended up with 1 gallon of strawberries, plus my kids were helping, so they probably ate at least a quart while they were out here too. So we certainly picked more than 1 gallon, and we just ate them fresh. I'm not planning to do any more strawberry jam or any preserving at this point. We'll just eat what we can pick. I'm also thinking about possibly I need to thin this, first of all. I need to thin these plants out a bit. I'm thinking about putting a path up the middle of it. I feel like that will make it a lot easier to access all the strawberry plants, especially when it's my kids doing the picking. So I'm thinking kind of starting at the end and going straight up the middle here and just doing a little path through the middle, just so everyone kind of has a nice place to walk, where they can stand without worrying about stepping on a plant or stepping on a strawberry or whatever. So at some point I'm going to go through and I'm going to thin them out, and I'll make a path of some sort. I need to figure out how wide I want it. I don't want it to be too wide, because, you know, I want to maximize my production. It's so hard to pull out a plant that you know is healthy and producing, but I think to maximize our harvest, that's what needs to be done. And I also think that the thinning will help improve the amount and the quality of the fruit that we're getting too. So that's on the to-do list. We're too busy to worry about it right now, but it's on the list. Up next here we have my garlic, looking good, starting to get a little bit brown at the tips. I usually harvest that around beginning to mid-July or so. So we'll see how that goes. I think, what is it? I always have to look it up. I think you wait until it's like 2/3 brown, and that's when you harvest it. You can also just pull one and take a look at how the bulb is looking, and that tells you a lot too. Lastly, out here I have my oregano. As you can see, I harvested a bunch of oregano right here, though honestly I think I need to harvest all the rest of it too. I think it just needs to be cut back and given a chance to regrow. So I've been trying a lot of oregano. Since last year, I haven't ever had to buy oregano. I make our own pasta sauce, I make our own pizza sauce, and I just use the dried oregano from my garden. And I usually try to I put it in canning jars. I do like maybe 2 of the pint jars of oregano, and that's enough for us. I still have plenty from last year, and I've already dried some this year, so that's plenty. I'd rather have too much than not enough, and the oregano grows like crazy. So I also gave some to a neighbor. I'll probably post to some friends and see if anybody wants some oregano. We've got some brassicas of some sort, broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage, I think, maybe Brussels sprouts. We're all planted out here. They're growing, they look big, they look good, but they're just not They're not forming a cabbage head. I'm not seeing a Brussels sprout stalk forming. I'm not seeing broccoli heads forming at all. So we'll have to take a look at them and see if they don't do anything. It's not the end of the world. I just have such a hard time growing them. I'll have to try again in the fall, maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and flip you around and we'll go inside the spring garden area here and take a look at what's going on in there. All right, so as you can see here, the biggest thing that's going on in here right now would be the weeds. Like I said, we've been so busy, I just haven't had a chance to get out here and weed the way I really need to. I'm also, a lot of this stuff is kind of winding down. I noticed my spinach back there is starting to bolt a little bit, so it all needs to be pulled out anyway. So a lot of times weeding it would be easier to just wait, pull what can be pulled of the plants that I'm keeping. The spinach I'll freeze or saute for a meal or two or whatever. And then worry about weeding once that's out of the way. I've got some Swiss chard growing there and some kale down here. The kale I intend to harvest hopefully today, if not today, within the next couple days, to make kale chips because my kids love kale chips. The greens, I've been picking like a mix of the different greens plus the lamb's quarter and a few beet greens and sauteing that in the morning with eggs for breakfast. I feel like that's just the standard homesteader's spring breakfast is eggs and greens. It's not what everybody eats. But anyway, the kale is still looking good, but it's getting hot out, so I can't imagine it's gonna last a whole lot longer, so I need to get it picked and eaten. This cilantro is doing pretty well. It's another one that doesn't like it hot, so I should probably start harvesting it pretty soon, and my dill looks really good. And dill is okay if it goes to seed because I'm going to use it to make dill pickles, and the seed heads work just as well for the pickles as anything else. These radishes I planted kind of thinking of them as a trap crop. Although we've really been enjoying eating radishes. I like them on salad, raw, and then my kids really liked the pickled radishes that I made. They're refrigerator pickles. So next year I definitely want to plant like 10 times as many radishes. I might take a look at some of these, and if there's a few nice looking radishes, I might pull a few radishes out. That's the same back there. There's a bean plant and then there's some more radishes back there. So we'll see kind of how they look, and some of them might get harvested even though I intended to sacrifice them as a trap crop for the pests. Over here on this trellis I have a tiny little cucumber growing, another little cucumber over there, and on this side of the same trellis I have more cucumbers. This one's much larger. There's a big one back there that I'm trying to get to start climbing, and it keeps falling over. It needs to be just a tiny bit bigger, I think. I've got these nasturtiums growing, and that's a sunflower right there. Actually, one of my nasturtiums, I thought I saw a bloom on. I've never grown nasturtiums before, so this is exciting. So yeah, look, here we go. We'll have a nasturtium flower here pretty soon. And the other exciting flower that I saw right back here, a squash flower. It's funny because, you know what, let's just pull this radish leaf so it's not shading it. This is like the puniest squash plant out here, and it's the first one to produce a flower. So funny, this was open this morning. It has since closed up. Let me take you around to look at something else. Over here we have what is currently my favorite part of the garden. I love these beautiful purple flowers on these pea plants. These are magnolia tendril peas, I think they're called. And they have these purple pea pods. See these teeny tiny little ones right here. They're gorgeous. I love them. Now I will say, I come out here and I eat the peas raw sometimes. I just like snap on them out here. And I also have sugar and snap peas planted, which have a green pod, and they're a little bit sweeter and a little more tender than these purple ones, but they're just so gorgeous that I love them anyway. These purple ones were a little slower to produce, so I haven't picked a whole lot of them yet. The sugar ants I have picked and sauteed, and my kids really like them sauteed, but didn't really care for them raw. I like them both ways, so they are very, sauteed in butter is a pretty tasty way to eat some pea pods. So I'm curious when I get enough to pick some of these purple pods and saute them and see how they do that way. Because a lot of times something a little tougher, you know, it's better if you cook it a bit. But anyway, these are gorgeous. I love them. They're planted, they're both kinds are both planted along here. They also got quite a bit taller. Woo, big wind. They also got quite a bit taller than the sugar ant snap peas. I also have them growing on this trellis over here. And I love the way this looks, and it makes me really excited for how the other arches are gonna look when the cucumbers and the melons and the noodle beans have all covered them. Because these are, you know, this is covered, but it's not like completely covered the way those plants are gonna be in the middle of the summer. I also, for next year, I want to make sure I'll plant them on arches and trellises and not what I'm using as a protective fencing, because I would actually like to pull my fence out right now, and I can't because I have pea plants attached to it, so I can't move it at all. So anyway, but they are, like I said, they're gorgeous, and I really, really like the color, and I'll definitely be planting them again. And I'll probably plant more next year because we're not really getting such a big harvest to like saute and eat as a side dish, which is what I would like to do. It's more like we could saute, you know, a dozen or 2 dozen of them, and it's more of a snack than really a side dish for, you know, 2 adults and 3 children. So I'm loving them though. I think maybe next year I will plant them on a big trellis, and then, or maybe I'll just get some more cattle panels next year. We'll see how that goes. But otherwise, planting them on one of my arches, and they should be done in time that I could plant the noodle beans and kind of succession plant them. We'll see how the timing works out. As of right now, the noodle beans aren't really climbing the trellis yet. So if they were both planted on the trellis, I think it would be okay. But we'll see how quickly those noodle beans could take off. You know, sometimes, especially this time of year, you go to bed and it rains overnight, and you wake up and it's a sunny day and everything's grown 2 feet overnight. So we'll see how it goes. All right, last up in the spring garden, I have this row of lettuce right here. I've had such a tough time growing a decent amount of lettuce that I planted a ton, and this year it just went nuts, and it's been more than we've been able to eat. I did give a bunch to a friend, I gave a bunch to a neighbor, so I need to enjoy this lettuce because it's certainly getting close to being done with these hot days that we've been getting lately. Next to it, this is beet. This is a row of beets with a lot of weeds mixed in, as you can see. I mix the beet greens in with my greens and eggs in the morning, and I noticed that their greens have that super earthy flavor, and so I'm wondering if I need to hurry up and pick them. The beets will go to beet chips because my kids love beet chips. If you're noticing a theme, basically the theme of most of my garden is producing healthy food that my children will eat. I grow plenty of things that they don't like. I make them try plenty of things that they don't like over and over again because I think that's important too. But, you know, if I can get my 6-year-old and 4-year-old to happily eat beets if they're in the form of beet chips, then I will grow a lot of beets and make a lot of beet chips. Next to them, this is a row of carrots. Now, I picked a carrot the other day, and it was super fibrous. It was like chewing on a tree root. So I'm not sure what happened. Usually if it gets hot, they get bitter. And this one was just so tough. I don't know, but the flavor of it was okay. You just couldn't eat it. So anyway, I'm going to pick some of them and kind of see how they are. And if they're too tough to eat, I will toss them in my stock for flavoring. And then next to them, those are dragon's tongue bush beans that I recently transplanted out. And I need to figure out when I pull all this stuff, because obviously all these spring crops are winding down. It's time for them to come out, and for, you know, they're gonna start going to seed or getting, like, the carrots get bitter. The beets are gonna get too much of that strong flavor to them. So this all needs to come out, and I'm not sure what I'm gonna plant here. I pretty much have the space I need for the summer garden already set. But I could probably throw out some cucumbers maybe here. Maybe some more beans, because I could certainly can some more beans. We'll see. So I just went ahead and picked a beet out of curiosity. I would say the beets are ready to be harvested. I'm a little concerned that they're past the point of ready to be harvested. So I'm going to pick a bunch of these, see how tough they are, get an idea for how their flavor is, and make some beet chips maybe this afternoon. I should really stay out here and weed, but I think harvesting these and getting them eaten is going to be more important than weeding for now. It also will be easier to weed if I pull all the beets, or a significant amount of the beets, and I'm getting ready to pull carrots and I'm getting ready to pull spinach. There's really not much point in fighting to pull weeds now when I could just harvest the vegetables and then go through and just pull everything that's left, because everything that's left will be weeds. So yeah, look at that. I'm gonna go tell my 6-year-old it's time to make beet chips. I was going to show you the summer garden too, but I feel like this is getting a little long. We'll see. I might be back out to take a look at the summer garden, or that might have to wait until next time because I have beet chips to make. And I was planning on waiting on the beets and making the kale chips first, but I think the beets are going to be the winner for today. And I'm also going to pull a couple carrots and see if they need to be eaten, cooked, or just tossed in the freezer to be added to my chicken stock. We'll see kind of how their texture is and their flavor is. And if I missed the window on them, I don't really know. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Time to pick some beets.